Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Curly, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scream with Ryan C. Showers podcast, where the film critic meets the Scream fan twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. First, I need to wish my dear, dear friend, Josh Carr, a very happy birthday today. Now, before I go any further, I need to thank the producers of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. They include Ashley Summers from the Squirrel and Spud Shop. She and I host a Scream game every Wednesday on Instagram, so please check that out. I also need to thank TJ Jones, who comes from the Box Office Buds podcast. He is responsible for all of the graphic design of Scream with Ryan C. Showers in terms of new episode cards on social media promotion. So thank you so much to TJ for all he does. I also need to thank contributors Amar Karim, Mark Vieira, and Joey Velisi. Joey Velisi is the guy who writes the scripts for Scream with Ryan C. Showers. Episode 112, we wrote a Scream 7 script, which I read out loud, about the end of the Carpenter sisters storyline. And then the sequel to that was called Screams. It was centered around the legacy of Gail Weathers. That's episode 155. And Joey is currently working on the final Scream, which this is a product that is going to examine the relationship, the marriage of Mark and Sydney. Unlike the real Scream 7, this will feature Mark Kincaid as Sydney's husband, and she won't have a teenage daughter. Both of her daughters will be young, so it'll be much different than the real Scream 7 we're going to get. But that is going to be coming to the podcast late summer, early fall, so please tune in for that. I need to thank everybody over at Patreon. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to the Patreon at any and every tier. I'm an independent entity, so any bit of support that comes into the Patreon goes back into the podcast. Joining the Patreon gets you ad-free and early access to every episode, as well as the opportunity to join the community of the show. We have group chats across social media. In particular, Instagram is really the hub of the podcast community. More importantly, joining the Patreon is the vessel in which you would use to come onto the podcast, either in a one-on-one situation with me or a small panel. In addition, there's a guaranteed invite every month to a big group Zoom recording about a Scream topic. An exciting feature of the podcast is the audio commentary episodes. Every Scream fan knows what it was like listening to Wes Craven do the audio commentaries for the original trilogy and Scream 4, with Marianne Maddalena and Kevin Williamson and Patrick Lussier. And what I'm trying to do for my Patreon subscribers is I am going to be performing an audio commentary of a Scream or a Scream-related movie, one per month, every month. And my goal is to try to approach these as I'm doing deep analytical analysis about the characters, about the themes, about just general reaction. So it's something that I'm really proud of and I hope continues to be a cherished part of the podcast. So the commentary is available as a normal podcast episode for anybody to listen to like they would any other podcast, but it will also be available as a video watch along. So everybody, please go over to Patreon, subscribe to Scream with RCS. I would be eternally grateful. So I need to go through and thank everybody over at Patreon who is subscribed as a stab investor or a daddy/mama Ghostface. So the daddy/mama Ghostface of the Patreon are Carrie Tenney, Brett Janovich, Corey Wilson, and Stevie Shears. The stab investors include Allie, Amar Karim, Tamika Jones, David D., Garrison Nichols, Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nobarini, aka The Vault, Josh Calamari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, The Horror Project podcast, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Quentin Harrison, and Sam Levy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers, and joining me is my co-host, Amar.
Hey, Ryan.
There was some big news that happened recently. I mean, I say news, but it's actually just one person stating their opinion and it just, causing everyone to just react, right? But so, I mean, very, very spicy stuff. And there's also something else that we're going to talk about. So first, we are going to talk about Alison Brie. And I actually had a full episode of Scream with Ryan C. Showers recorded, edited, ready to go for today's release. And I've scrapped that. That will be coming to you on September 2nd whenever we come back from the summer hiatus, because we are taking a summer hiatus with the show. We're taking a much needed vacation. But Alison Brie, man, you just, right when I think I'm winding down, I'm closing the laptop, firing down the mic, you pull me back in for a great episode. So first, we're going to discuss Alison Brie's comments about the Scream franchise. So as we know, Alison Brie played Rebecca Walters in Scream 4. She came out and had some opinions, some condemnation, I would say, for the new era of Scream movies, as she put it, aka Scream 5 and Scream 6. But I think she's mostly talking about Scream 6. Maybe I'm reading into that. I don't know. But, this Alison Brie thing has jazzed me. Like, wow, fuck me, wow, to quote the queen herself. There's so much to talk about, but specifically not only what she said, how people reacted to it, but also I think what Alison Brie did is she helped break fever that has been in the fandom, that has been a part of the discourse, that I think we're finally on the other side of something really, really toxic. So we're going to discuss Alison Brie and everything she had to say. In the second half of the episode, we're going to be talking about something equally controversial, and that is the fact that it's not even official yet, but we're going to frame it as the possibility of, because the rumors are real, the intel is real, and from what I've heard, we're going to be getting an announcement of this in the next couple of weeks, and that is Melissa Barrera is probably joining Scary Movie 6. After all of the buzz over the past couple of years said, oh, it would be so funny if Melissa Barrera would do this and join Scary Movie just to, throw spite at Scream. She should do that. She should do that. That'd be such a power move. Well, the power move allegedly is happening. And I have some deep feelings about it. And I think that, so what Amar and I are going to do is we're going to talk about Melissa Barrera joining Scary Movie and what that actually means. You may think that you're so cute and that you're so clever on social media and Twitter to be like, ooh, this would be such a bitch boss move for her to be in Scary Movie 6. Would it though? What does it really mean? Okay, so she joins Scary Movie. What's step 2? What's step 3? What's step 10 down the road? I don't think it's as grand or as bright-eyed as you think it is.
But I mean, to be honest with you, I've been off Twitter for a long time. So I've been staying away from a lot of it. But now that I'm back on in the thick of everything, I can see how everybody is just, getting the knickers in a twist over a comment.
Well, the problem is Twitter has had its knickers in a twist, to use your phrase, for a long time, and it's just been a horribly toxic thing. It's been a horribly toxic place. It's been supercharged to just be as fucking miserable as anything. And I think that what happened with Alison Brie is finally, I think it exposes a lot of who is the bad guy in the situation of the Scream fandom. I think that there's this, some people have, because of their sympathies for the fact that Melissa was let go, that they've let that allow this both sides-ism to occur where, Scream 7 fans are just excited that, to have Sydney back and to have Kevin back, and we're just moving forward. And then you have the Melissa fans, the core 4 people, who are literally sending death threats, who harass people all day long, who name call, who make fun of people's appearances, who just incessantly berate people nonstop and accuse people of being racists and this and that. And I think what Alison Brie did here is she kind of exposed that the toxicity is not coming from both sides. It's coming from one side, and the discourse is really, really dumb. Before we talk about Alison Brie, I just want to run through this because this aids Alison Brie's point. So I went through Scream 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And just for perspective's sake, okay, I'm going through the number of survivors. So in Scream 1, we had Sydney, Gale, Dewey, Randy. That's 4. And then I'm calling this the extra, okay? There's always been an extra in Wes's films. It's the person who's kind of there, who survives, who does in fact survive, but they aren't super main characters. So in Scream 1, Sydney, Gale, Dewey, Randy, the extra is Neil Prescott, right? He's there, but we don't really count him as a survivor, if that makes sense, because he just doesn't really matter. So Scream 2, same deal. Sydney, Gale, Dewey, Cotton, and the extra person is Joel. Okay, so technically 4, but 5 with the extra person. Scream 3, we have Sydney, Gale, Dewey, Kincaid. The extra person is Detective Wallace. Okay, fair enough. Scream 4, Sydney, Gale, Dewey, Judy, and I'm calling the extra person Kirby because we thought she was dead for 15 years. Scream 5, we have for perspective's sake, in Wes's films, there was always 4 survivors, 1 extra person who was kind of murky, if that makes sense. Scream 5, we had 6. Sam Tara, Sydney Gale, Chad Mindy. And this, to me, I'm just going to ask you, Amar, going from 4 to 6, did it bother you? Because it doesn't bother me.
It bothered me in the sense that, in the manner in which one of them survived. That bothered me. Chad.
Okay.
Because, okay, I get that Dewey gets stabbed up and stuff, but you look at the way supposedly Amber stabs him up. He's literally stabbed quite a few times. But the fact that he survived, I was fine with it. I didn't even really think about it, to be honest. Oh, there's 6 survivors in this. To me, it was just like, I'm happy that some people have made it, basically.
Well, and the thing is, like, with Wes's films, Scream 1 had 7 deaths. Scream 2 and 3 each had 10 deaths. Scream 4 had 15 deaths. Scream 5 has 8 deaths. So that's still quite a bit. We still have characters who die. But I think, like, Scream 5, what Scream 5 did was with the kind of violence, the excessive stabbing, the jackhammer, stabbing that Tara gets, that Chad gets, like, that is very different for Scream. And I think that Scream 5 kind of marked a new era of, like, tolerance for pain, survival through stabbing, right? Or whatever. Because, like, Tara was stabbed up just as much in Scream 5. Like, her surviving the opening, maybe not so realistic, right? I don't know. So you have Tara and Chad, but honestly, with Scream 5, I'm okay with it. It's fine. Like, I don't feel like we have too many people. We have Sydney and Gail there. There's a lot going on there, So I let it slide because it's okay. Scream 6 is such a mess. Like, even in my little agenda here, it's like one line on a Microsoft Word doc for each movies. And then Scream 6, I literally have 3 different lines because it's so complicated. In Scream 6, our survivors are Sam, Tara, Chad, Mindy, Gail, Herbie, Annie, that's 7, plus Frankie, the frat bro guy from the beginning who tries to date rape Tara. So, interesting that we don't make him a victim when he would be prime, real estate for any other slasher movie to make the creepy guy get killed, right? And they have, so of the people who die, okay, there are 5 killers who die, okay? You have, the 3 Baileys, Jason, and the guy in the refrigerator. Then the actual victims. I have only counted 3 people who have names. Laura Crane, Dr. Stone, and Annika. That's it. Then the rest, we just have extras. We have 3 randos in the bodega, Gail's boyfriend, whose name is not even spoken in the movie, and the bathtub guy. What the fuck? So, okay. So the point is, though, in Wes Craven's films, we had 4 survivors, 1 extra person. In Scream 5, we had 6 survivors, but that was different. It was a pass the torch movie that Radio Silence was trying to do, whatever, balancing a lot of things. Then in Scream 6, there were 7 survivors, plus the rando guy, Frankie, who I would deem like the extra person, like Neil Prescott was in the original. So I just wanted to frame that all. So next, just for perspective's sake, I want us to have that in mind as we go into what Alison Brie says. So Alison Brie, who played Rebecca in Scream 4, she was promoting her new movie together with her husband, Dave Franco, and they were talking about Scream, and it was brought up the fact that all these dead people are coming back to the franchise, and she's like, oh, where's my role in Scream? And then it goes on to say, well, all these people are coming back, and she said, yeah, well, my problem with the new era of the Scream movies is that nobody dies. The core 4 should die. And then, so that is what most of social media saw, was that. And then the way that TikTok spliced it up, it goes to this next part where she's talking about the trio and how sad she was to have lost Dewey, and that the trio probably should have all survived. But one thing that like hasn't really been passed around is there's a little portion in the middle that connects these two, where she says something to the effect about Randy and how they took a fan favorite in Scream 2 and we lost him, and that's what this new era is missing. And then she was kind of egged on about Dewey, and she said, yeah, it was very sad to lose him. That was probably a mistake. We can't touch the main 3. So this has caused massive discussion in the Scream fandom about what she said. Her phrasing, the hurt feelings, she's been accused of being a racist. So Amar, what are your instant thoughts here to Alison Brie?
I just need to make a quick, because we're going to talk about both actresses today. I want to make a quick disclaimer here. So me and Melissa Barrera have a very similar outlook politically. Particularly me and Melissa Barrera, we're on the same page. What I'm trying to do here is talk about the context of the topic, and to be as, I don't believe in bias. I think you should take everything, call a spade, basically, and talk about it. So when I first saw this comment, immediately I was like, oh, she does mention the call for should die. So I knew straight away. I was like, people are going to jump on this and say, oh, she wants all of them to die. And hence, when I started looking, this is exactly what came up. Oh, she only wants them to die because they're people of color. She only wants the trio to survive because they're white. And that is basically the consensus of what I've been seeing. And so I made a tweet in response to this. And I said, well, I'm a person of color. And honestly, I don't believe that that's what she meant. I believe that she's trying to say, and which a lot of people, even fans of the Call for, if you really break it down and scrutinize it, even I'm thinking at least, how have none of them died, right? Based on what happens in Scream 5 and especially what happens in Scream 6. And then I saw the full clip and I realized I was right. She doesn't mean let's kill off all the core four. She's like, at least some of them must die because the stakes are not there. Yes, Dave Franco then turns around and says, well, they did kill off Dewey. And she has a right to say, well, I like Dewey. A lot of people were upset when Dewey died. My friend, who is Asian, is still upset that Dewey died because he loves Dewey. So I think if we start looking at race here, then we're already digging a hole for ourselves, because not once in this franchise is Chad and Mindy and Sam and Tara, none of their ethnicity is ever brought up, ever. It's not the narrative. It's got nothing to do with the plot. It's just the fact that these are characters in this film. Now, people need to understand that you have original fans or fans of the original trio. So the likes of Sidney, Dewey, and Gail, you're going to connect with them straight away. I have never seen Sidney Prescott as a white woman or Dewey as a white guy or Gail. To me, they're characters. So when people start running on and saying, yeah, it's a racist thing, she's racist, and I'm like, really? I mean, if she is, right, let's just say for argument's sake, she is. That's not what she said. She said these characters should never have survived. At least two of them should be dead by the next film. And for her to want, I mean, I disagree. Dewey's dead. He's gone. He's never coming back. So she needs to just suck that up and, realize that, yeah, that's never going to happen. So I just feel that it's easy to jump on the race card. And I'm honestly, people are listening to this thinking, wait a minute, he's a Muslim Pakistani guy that's talking about racism and saying that people are not. When something is racist, I'm the first one to call it out and I'll say it. But in this context, I really don't believe she is.
Well, it's completely ridiculous that it would go to this place. But honestly, it didn't surprise me. Like, as soon as the quote came in and we were all reacting and we were all kind of in shock. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I was jazzed by this because
I know you were. I think you egged people on. You're like, yeah, all the haters out there. You put your comment and I knew it. I was like, right, Ryan's happy. His haters are going to come for him in a second.
But the thing is, my haters, they literally come for me every single day. Me existing triggers them. So it is what it is. The power that has. So
yeah.
But here's the thing about this. Like, as soon as she said this, I knew where it was going to go. I knew she was going to be called a racist. Because frankly, the Melissa Barrera fans, the Scream 6 fans, they operate in bad faith when it comes to people who disagree with their opinion. The only way they feel as though they can get the upper edge in the discourse, in having discussions about Scream, in validating their viewpoint about Scream, is to call the other people who disagree as racist. Like, that has been the past 2 years of the Scream fandom, not even just since Melissa's gotten fired, because what the casual thing that's happening, there's laughing, there's smiling. They acted like Alison Brie she was seething at the mouth, angry, saying, all four, 1, 2, 3, 4, Chad, Mindy, Sam, Tara, all four of the people of color must die. That is so not what she said. She is somebody who worked with Wes Craven. She's someone who was in this franchise. She's someone who died in this franchise, and what she was saying is this franchise is not the same as it once was back, 15 years ago in terms of the way that it's killing people. And that has an impact on the plot and the effectiveness of these movies. At least that's what I took from her point of view. And before we go forward, I want to just share something that my friend Zach Cherry said, because I think that this kind of sums up this situation with Alison Brie, and just the overall kind of thing that we're talking about here for the past 2 years, which is the Scream 6 of it all. If you don't like Scream 6, you're a racist. If you don't support Melissa Barrera, you're a racist. If you support Scream 7, you're a racist. And, so my friend Zach Cherry, he wrote on Twitter, imagine being so stubborn about your favorite movies / characters that you would exploit an actor's race rather than accept that other people have valid opinions about a film. That to me just kind of like, it hit me so hard. I was like, wow, it took him one sentence to summarize the past 2 years of the petulant children that we've dealt with that have come from the Scream 6 fandom. Amar, any thoughts?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, again, I'm always trying to see both sides of an argument, whether I agree with one side or not. Always. I've always done that. I think you can vouch for me because that's just who I've always been. And, for anyone that thinks this is a racist comment, right? I get it. I get why you would think like that. But realistically, open your eyes and scrutinize it. Zach Cherry is right in what he said. It's got nothing to do with color. And I think most of these people, yeah, maybe they have suffered a lot of racism. Trust me, I could sit here and tell you all the racist things that have happened to me. I haven't changed. Because if it was true, then you and I would definitely not be friends, Ryan. I would hate anyone that's white or with blue eyes because of the stuff that's happened to me. But I realized, you know what? Those are just individuals and shit happens.
Well, can I just be frank? Like, most of the people online who are, screaming justice for Melissa, part of the problem is like this performative aspect of like, oh, boycott Scream 7 because of this. If you like Nev Campbell, you're this. The thing is, and the reason why I think it's important to address this now is like, it really breaks my heart the way that the Melissa fans and the Core 4 fans and the way that political issues have infiltrated Scream, they have said that all Nev Campbell fans are racist, that Scream has a racist problem. And that to me, I don't believe it. I don't believe it to be true. I don't think that there's evidence for it. I think it's cherry-picked stuff. I do think that Melissa faced a lot of criticism at the time of Scream 5, some of which was in bad faith, but some of which was genuine about her acting, So it's complicated, and I think to write off an entire franchise, an entire fandom, because you're upset that she is no longer continuing in it as racist, just to tear it down for no other reason, with no evidence, I think is wrong. And I think what Alison Brie is showing here is that I think she's pulling off the mask of what these people have been doing. And I think that this divide, the Melissa Core 4 Scream 6 half, they are flailing right now because Alison Brie exposed them.
Yeah. I mean, I want to just jump onto the background of this, basically. So when Melissa Barrera first came into Scream 5, I was quite critical of her acting, and I thought that Tara as a character and Jenna Ortega's performance was far better at the time.
And can I just stop you? I was the opposite. I supported Melissa Barrera.
Yeah,
I thought she was awesome. So fuck you, Scream 6 fans.
So, and I've seen, and these are the people I will call out. So I've seen the comments where people have said, why have they chosen, someone who's not white to play a character? Why is Melissa Barrera in this? She's not even American. And those people I will respond to. That's racism. And it's there. It always will be there. So I think people latch onto that. But what Alison Brie has said, she's just speaking her mind. And if you listen to the whole interview, it's very tongue-in-cheek. She's giggling, she's laughing. People always say, I put a comment on Twitter, and then people have been responding to me, and some are like, thank you for saying this, it's nice to hear that. And obviously you're not going to please everyone. So some people are saying, no, you're counterproductive, and you shouldn't be saying these things, and that you don't understand.
You shouldn't be saying these things. Amar, this is your experience. This is your life. You're allowed to have your freedom of speech. If Melissa Barrera is allowed to have her freedom of speech, so are you. So is Alison Brie.
Everybody. Yeah, exactly. And I've always said, you can say whatever you want as long as you're not purposely harming or purposely saying nasty things. I've always said that. Even if you believe it, there's things that I believe that I will never say out loud because I think, well, really, do I need to say that? We've all got this good side and this bright side, light side, dark side, whatever. The point I'm trying to make here is from what I've seen, I don't believe Alison Brie has said anything wrong. And I said this in my tweet, and I said, if you believe that it's something to do with racism, you're the problem. Because racism happens every single day. But always look at the context of what's going on. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, I said, let's just say for argument's sake, Alison Brie is a racist, right? Let's say that she is. But her comments aren't racist. She is saying, I like the original trio. I don't want them to die. Dewey dying sucked. There's so many people that didn't want Dewey to die. I've always said, for me, the only person technically that's untouchable is Sidney Prescott. And you know how much I love Gail Weathers and Courtney Cox. But realistically, in the future, if Courtney did die or her character did die, I'd be like, well, it was going to happen. And I'll tell you why Dewey died. Because if you really scrutinize it, let's just look. Because at the end of the day, these are just characters, right? Mm-hmm. It's not even real life. So people getting bent out of shape over this is ridiculous in my opinion. But if you look at the context of these characters, Dewey was always going to die because Dewey was the only character of the trio that thought with his heart. Mm-hmm. Gail thinks with her brain. Sidney is a mixture of the two. This is why Gail and Sidney have survived so far. And this is why Dewey died. No, realistically, if you think about it, that's exactly why he died. He got off that elevator because his heart was, he's like, I need to make sure this guy is dead. So if you look at the narrative, of course he's going to die. So deal with it. Now, the Core 4, I'm surprised that 2 of them haven't died. And you and I have discussed this at length. How is Chad still alive?
Yeah.
How is Mindy? Okay, Mindy may have survived, but she would not be running down that street to tell them, wow, Gail's in hospital and I'm fine. It makes no sense. So Alison Brie is saying that this is ridiculous, and the fact that Scream films are not raising their stakes.
And to be fair, as we pointed out, with the number of survivors and the number of deaths in the beginning, how I went through and said basically Wes Craven had 4 plus 1, and then Scream 6 has 7 plus 1, 8. And like, so here's the thing. So they let Frankie live in Scream 6. They didn't touch him. They let a date rapist, survive. Does that mean Scream 6 also endorses date rape? Like, I mean, I don't, it's so, once you start going down this rabbit hole, it gets so silly.
It does. And you can always just keep digging a hole for yourself. People always will. And what I've learned is that you just can't please everyone. I've said it before and I say it again. The reason I think Ryan and I are doing this episode is just to say, look, it's stupid. An actress is saying that she's a fan of the originals and this is her belief,
And and for perspective, Alison Brie loves Scream. I don't know if people remember her promoting Scream 4 or even like around before Scream 5. So, her ranking, by the way, is 1, 4, 3, 2, and then I guess whatever 5 and 6 are for her. So in this interview with Evan Ross Katz, she literally says, "I'm a Scream 3 apologist." I'm just like, wow, I need to marry Alison Brie. I need to give her like a parade for doing this. And like, I just want to talk about why I was so impressed by her saying this and her just being honest. And it's because, a lot of like, I think there's been a lot of toxic positivity about Scream 5 and 6 where, and not even just from like people like online, but even people in the industry. Oh my God, this is so great. This is just as good as the original. This is the best sequel. Like, not everything is the best sequel. Not every time a new movie comes out, it isn't going to be the best sequel. And I just felt like, wow, Alison Brie is really being honest as a Scream fan, as somebody who worked on the movies, to say what it is. I think there's a difference between being polite and being pandering. And I think what Alison Brie was like, she gave her honest opinion. And that, the fact that we're even talking about her honest opinion, I think is saying something. And to be honest, full disclosure, I don't agree with Alison Brie. I don't agree with what she said. I don't agree. I think that Dewey should have died. I'm not like, it's hard. It's complicated. I mean, this whole debate about Dewey, it's literally, I've done a whole episode on it. It's a 2-hour episode 149. Go listen. There are so many aspects to his death that we could debate. Overall, I think that it was okay that he died because we needed to go there for Gail and Sydney, to keep the story going. And I think that's what she's saying. It's not only just like in terms of the characters being so goofy and like the believability and the plot armor around the core 4, but also like the story isn't getting better. Like the dramatic stakes in terms of making them deeper, it's turning Scream into something that it wasn't. And I think,
yeah, I mean, I just wanted to jump to a point when Scream 5 first came out. You loved it. I didn't even like it. I remember you saying, "Oh, I'm sad for you that you thought it was not as good as you expected." And these films, they will always interchange. Depending on your mood, you might come up one day. I mean, the first 3 for me are always going to be at the top. And sometimes I think 5 is better than 4. It switches. It just depends on your mood. Now, I agree with what you're saying with the core 4. I actually really like the core 4. I love Sam Carpenter. I wish that we had Sam Carpenter until the end. I wish we had Terra. I do believe that Chad and Mindy should be dead. Like, I don't even dislike them. I actually thought that Chad was better in part 6. But the thing is, no matter what happens, first of all, we're never going to see the Carpenter sisters, I don't believe, ever again. That's the first thing. So that chapter is closed. We need to get past it. You have to move on. Now, we know that Chad and Mindy are coming back. We don't know what's going to happen to them in 7. I mean, if they die, people are going to complain. If they don't die, people are going to complain. Everything you're saying today, I'm listening to, and I'm just thinking, how silly is it that we've got to this point? Why are we discussing this? Because A, first of all, it's just fictional.
Mm-hmm.
B, these people, probably the actors themselves, don't even care as much as we do, whether they live or die. I mean, I know that Courtney Cox has said to Wes Craven so many times, kill me off, and he just didn't want to, right?
Well, and so here's the thing too. So let's talk about what she actually said, because some people have said that like what they think is racist about it is the fact that she's saying kill the core 4, but the main 3, you can't kill the main 3. And again, she doesn't say it with malice. She's just talking and having fun and sharing what her actual genuine truth is. The way that I first read this statement, it was twofold. Whenever she said the core 4, I thought she was like making fun of the name. And the fact that she even knows to call it the core 4 in public, like what other, if you just picked any other actor from Scream 3, Scream 4, Scream 2, like even like, let's just say Elise Neal. If Elise Neal was being interviewed right now for an unrelated project and someone brought up Scream to her, do you think she would know the core 4? To say this? So one, Alison Brie clearly is invested in the franchise and knows what she's talking about. But two, like, I didn't interpret it as, her saying like that she literally means that all 4 of these characters should be dead and that the trio should be this. Like I don't think that's what she meant. The way that I read this statement at first was, I'm unhappy with the new direction that the era went, that this new iteration of Scream went. these characters of the core four aren't as memorable as the originals, and no one is dying in these movies, despite the excessive violence and the number of times you're stabbing them in these horror situations. Like, you're letting them survive despite stabbing them 20 times. Like, that's how I first interpreted it. Also, I kind of got like the sense like she was aware of the fact that like the core four as a group is kind of ridiculous. Like, and that's the thing, like Radio Silence, in my opinion, this whole conversation has gotten so frustrated because Radio Silence didn't do their job. I don't think Radio Silence represented these people, these characters, well. Tara gets stabbed literally at least 12 times in Scream 5. In Scream 6, in the finale, she's stabbed in the back, she's stabbed in the gut, and yet she's just charging away. Like, what? That's just not believable. People aren't buying it. And so I just don't think that you can do that and then expect, people, audience is not to react. In my opinion, this is this is a storytelling problem, not an audience reacting problem.
Yeah. I agree. First of all, Alison Brie, I said this at the beginning. I said when I first heard that, I knew it would cause controversy because she does say, oh, the core four needs to die. And I knew straight away that people are going to latch onto that. Like, oh, they should all die, should they? But in my own heart, I knew that she meant, why is all of them still alive? Like, in the sense that at least a couple of these should be dead. And when I watched the full clip, that's exactly what she said, right?
And she's talking about the group, the entity, this, Radio Silence, they forced it into existence, that this concept of the core four, this new era, this new friendship group, they wanted it so badly to be a thing. It's a thing. Alison Brie used the term that they wanted, and now everyone is bent out of shape.
Yeah, and also, I think the new generation of Scream fans that have seen 5 and 6 and then went back and revisited watched the first 4, they will never understand what Scream 1 to 3 at least means for Scream enthusiasts or purists, as I'd like to put it, because we lived through that era. We know these characters for a lot longer than Sam, Tara, Chad, and Mindy. I won't lie, I actually like these 4 characters. I've said it before. These characters are memorable. There is something, especially in 6, despite the flaws of that film that you and I believe, I think that Sam Carpenter's character is fantastic. I think Tara is great. All these actors are good. But if Alison Brie loves the original trio more than the core 4, what's wrong with that? Because I don't complain when someone says the core 4 are better than the original trio. And I don't, because I understand why they say that. They haven't seen the first 4 films in the cinema, or they've probably never seen the first 4. Hence why Scream wasn't called Scream 5. It was called Scream to entice a new audience to come in, and then they went back and watched it. So people have come up to me and said, I love Scream 6. What shall I do? I'm like, own that shit. If you love it, own it. Don't be afraid of what people think. If you think, even though I disagree, that, I don't know, Sam or Tara are better than Sydney and Gail, good for you. I'm not going to hate you for it. So it's fine.
Well, so, just to give, I want to go off that, and I want to give just the other side its due. You and I are clearly coming on the side of, she did nothing wrong. So my friend Josh Reinhold, he helped talk me off the ledge a little bit yesterday and helped me kind of see the other side in a more favorable light that isn't just the stereotypical way that I think is ridiculous. He talked about it from a PR standpoint. Alison Brie could look like she's coming off tone deaf, or as a tone deaf white woman, if that makes sense, and that she's fueling the divide. And I don't know, I think that yes, if Alison Brie was running for political office, if she was advertising something, that look at me, look how much of a great PR person I am, sure. But I disagree with this idea that she's fueling a divide, because like I've said, the Scream 7 fans, we're just existing. We're just having our opinions. We're excited for the new movie, whatever. It's the core 4 Scream 6 Melissa Barrera crowd that has been fueling the divide. They're the ones who've been on the offense nonstop before she was fired, too. And I just don't understand why Alison Brie has to tiptoe around the feelings of everybody. It's her opinion. It's she's allowed to say what her real thoughts are.
Yeah. And I said this to you the other day. I said to you,
these are fictional characters.
Yeah, exactly. That's the crux of it all. They're actually fictional characters. They're not even real. So, for us to get bent out of shape about an actress's comments who worked on the film, or one of the films, who is a fan from the beginning, who knows the director, the original director. But I've always tried to do this with you. And I've always said to you, always look at both sides of the argument, because I will always stand for Melissa Barrera. And I, get that her fans have come at you, and I disagree with all of that. But Melissa Barrera and I, see eye to eye with a lot of things. But at the end of the day, does it really matter what someone has said? I mean, I get what Josh is saying, and this is why when someone came at me today and said, your comment is this and your comment is that, I just turned around and said to that person, I hear you, because I understood their point of view. I didn't agree with it, but I understood it. And I think part of the problem is that people don't have empathy. And, Melissa Barrera being fired was ridiculous. And of course, it was going to cause uproar. Melissa Barrera fans need to realize that that's happened. It's like a breakup, for example. A guy and a girl been married for 22 years. They break up. One of them didn't want to break up. The other one's moved on. What does that guy need to do or the girl need to do? They need to move on and accept it. And that's what this whole franchise is about, acceptance. You know what? It happened. Shit happened. Dewey died. Move on with it. Melissa Barrera was fired. Move on with it. If you want to hate on Scream, if Melissa Barrera wants to hate on Scream, she has a right to hate on the person that fired her. That's all she needs to do. Nobody else. She still had good times with the actors. She had good time with people behind the scenes. So, you always need to just find the point and go to that. Don't explode and kill everyone in the mayhem.
Well, that would be a great transition if I was ready to go to Scary Movie 6, but I'm not. There's a couple of things I still want to juice here. So, and I just want to point out, so I see a lot of the Scream fandom. I see a lot of opinions. I hear a lot of opinions. It's not, my point of view isn't just the Patreon. It isn't just the toxic fans on Twitter. I see it across a lot of places. And for instance, just for perspective, in the month of July, my Facebook posts had almost 3 million views from just my Scream account. That is mind-blowing. Almost 3 million people saw my Facebook posts and engaged with them. Wild. But I was watching the reaction to Alison Brie across the platforms. And most people on Instagram were just kind of like, oh yeah, girl, finger snap, you got it. Because a lot of people on Instagram are very pro-Nev, which I think is interesting. Twitter, of course, we've talked about it to death. We know where they stand. Completely ridiculous, whatever. Facebook was interesting to me because I was watching. I wanted to see, is anyone going to bring up race? Is anyone going to call her a racist? I had posts in 20 different Scream groups. On my own posts, people were just commenting. Not a single person brought up race or that accused her of being racist. I would say 90% of the comments were about the believability of the writing and about Chad being stabbed a million times. Like that has people really triggered. It was just so interesting to me that was what people were kind of taking from this, is like, oh yeah, you know what, she has a point. The core four are, it's unrealistic, and I think that's interesting.
If you want to get into the crux of Scream 6, right, let's look at this point. The issue that I have with Mindy surviving or even being able to run down the road to Sam and Tara is this. She is being gutted on the subway, right? And so she has literally been stabbed up. She can't move. And then she gets patched up within, let's say, 12 hours, less than 12 hours. She's running down the road. Yet, when Ghostface slices her arm in the apartment, she is screaming and in such pain that, oh my God, I cannot move. I am going to die. She is the reason Annika is dead. Literally. I mean, girl, you have been sliced in your arm. And you're like, I can't move, you go first. But yet you've been literally stabbed in your abdomen. Your insides are all over the place. And you can run down the street. This is the issue that I believe that Alison Brie has. And this is the issue that most Scream 6, not haters, but people that have a problem with it have. And this is why when people say, we love Scream 6, I'm like, good for you. My own daughter thinks that Scream 6 is like the third best in the franchise. She and I can have a proper debate because obviously she's my daughter, so I can say exactly how I feel. And I understand why she loves it. But when I try to explain to her these little things, and that Mindy comment I've just made about her arm is, the more you think about it, listen to me, Scream 6 lovers, think about that scene, watch it again. How is she in so much pain in that scene? And then allowing her girlfriend to die because she is the reason she's dead, right?
Exactly.
And yet at the end, it's the inconsistency of Scream 6 that frustrates me.
And the thing is, you kind of hit on a nerve there. And I would argue that Alison Brie, what she said, what she feels, I would say, I don't want to say all, I don't want to say most, but I would say many, a good portion of Scream fans. And I would also extend this to be the average mainstream Scream person, right? Or a person who saw the Scream movies probably feels the same way Alison Brie feels, or who haven't said it, who've been afraid to say it because of being polite about Melissa Barrera being fired or for whatever reason. And people feel like, oh wow, she said the thing that a lot of people have been thinking. And again, I'm not saying I agree with Alison Brie. Again, I disagree with her about Dewey. I think 2 people dying is reasonable. So I just want to kind of end with some quotes from people who have sent some things in before we talk about Scary Movie. So my friend Tristan online, he said something to the effect of like, pray for her because she didn't know she just dropped a bomb on the Scream fan base. And I love Tristan. I'm not criticizing him. But I weighed in and I said, she didn't drop a bomb on the Scream fan base. She dropped a bomb on the delusional Scream 6 fan base and the cult of Melissa Barrera Twitter. I think that is a more accurate depiction because everyone else is like, fuck yeah, that's, it's her opinion. And they acted like, Alison Brie, did something catastrophic, that harms people in real life, not just their opinions. And so let's keep going here. So someone named this guy named John Kaisla, he worked on Scream 4 and he wrote to me and he said that on the set Allison was often correcting the crew and even Wes about events that happened in the previous movies, which I think is interesting. So she really knows her shit. Yeah. And someone named Sean Lunn, he wrote, quoting, the video, he says, "I'm sure Gen Z will be totally normal in response to this." And they were, right? So, and my friend Zach Cherry, he made a big post about this. It's a 3-tweet thing. So the first one is, the original trio and core 4 thoughts. Dewey being killed added the stakes, but it wasn't well thought out. The attitude felt like, let's kill him as opposed to rather than it being necessary. The way it played out was also as contrived as Laurie's kill in Halloween Resurrection. Ooh, burn. Okay. Number 2, he says, anti-core 4 rhetoric is not racist. Them being POC is entirely incidental since their ethnicities have never played into the plot in a contextual or thematic way. They just aren't as sharply written as the original trio was, and most people prefer nuanced character development. Again, burn. And that's the truth. I mean, I think his number 2 point here is exactly the case. Like, the trio was written so well. Okay, number 3 is, like most things regarding Scream, it's a personal preference. However, the fact remains that the previous movies had many characters die, while Scream 6 had all non-killers live, except for Annika, Laura, and Dr. Stone. The equivalent of no stakes. So, any thoughts on anything else? Any final thoughts?
Like I said at the beginning, even now, whilst you were talking, I was just looking at some of the stuff. And, I need to say that I understand why people love the Call 4, especially as a person of color. When I see a Pakistani character in a film, like Miss Marvel, for example, when that came to the forefront, I was so happy. I was like, okay, I feel like I'm being represented. But I just want to end with, I honestly, as a person of color myself, do not believe that she was being racist. I don't believe that she meant any ill intent. People are still telling me that I'm wrong about that, which is fine, And I'm just looking at this from a Scream franchise point of view, the character's point of view. And for her to love the original 3, she has a right to. If she doesn't like the Call 4, well, she never said that she doesn't like them. She just wants them to die, or at least 2 of them to die. She wants people. I know, yeah.
It's so silly to be mincing over words, but like,
but I know how it sounds. But even I want Mindy to die, or even I want Chad to. No, I do. I never want Sam and Tara to die. I don't. I love those 2. But if one of them died, then what am I going to do about it? Real life, you don't want people to die, but they do. So you don't have a control over this at all.
And like, and I don't hate the core 4. I like the core 4 individually. I like them as individual characters. The one thing I think that would have been interesting is if like they would have been pushed dramatically. Like, so let's just say Tara and Mindy die. That makes Sam and Chad more interesting going into Scream 7, but that didn't happen. And that's part of the thing here. So, and one last thing I'll say as in terms of the core 4 before we go on to Scary Movie is, Josh Reinhold also told me yesterday that like, we should be patient with the newer fans who they got their characters torn away from them after 2 movies, whereas we had 25, 30 years to live with the trio. And I get what he's saying, but at the same time, I also disagree because it's like, the reason why we are so connected with the trio is because of the 25 years. The Core 4 had 2 movies. And I think to make the trio be the same as the Core 4 or put the equal weight on them is a false equivalency. Like, I just don't think you're weighted the same after 2 movies as opposed to 4 or 5 movies.
I agree with what you're saying, but also I look back at when I watched Scream 2, and I was so invested in Sidney Prescott and Dewey Riley and Gail Weathers. I kind of get what Josh is saying because this, like I said to you, this new era of fans probably started with Scream 5 and 6. So that's all they know. To them, half of them won't even know who the actress playing Gail Weathers is, which is sad. But, like a comment I read the other day, oh, that lady in Bird Box. And I'm like, she's called Sandra Bullock, idiot. Right? So there is this new generation of people that will only know that. So I get it. I understand it. So yeah, I do agree with Josh because I was the same. After 2 films, I was like, I can't wait for part 3. They better not kill Gail off. They better not kill Sydney off. And these guys will never get that conclusion, especially with Sam and Tara. So I understand why they're annoyed.
Okay, so it has been said that Melissa Barrera is going to be in Scary Movie 6. It's been unconfirmed, but confirmed through the back channels. And this has been a thing that has been pervasive in the fandom since she was fired. Like, oh, wouldn't this be funny if? Wouldn't this be the biggest serve if? So whenever this was starting to be leaked, I thought it was a joke. But it's not a joke. She is likely going to be playing Sarah, which is the code name for Sam in the Scream 5 auditions back in 2020. And she's going to have like a proper supporting role. And along with Tuesday, who is going to be the Tara version in Scary Movie, she's going to be dressed as Wednesday Addams.
I think it's a bad move. I really do. I think Melissa Barrera, for me, deserves better. She can do better. Whether Hollywood is giving her any more roles is a different matter. I said this to you the other day. I said, there are two types of friends. I want to repeat this so people understand where I'm coming from. There are two types of friends. And let's say you and I are best friends, right? Which we are. You and I are best friends, and one day we fall out, and this friendship will never be salvaged again. Now, I can take two roads. I can either be that friend that will keep everything that you and I have shared private out of respect for our friendship, or I can be the person that is going to slander you and reveal everything. That tells you more about me than it does about you, right? And I've said this a million times, and I've said this to you every time you've come and told me about something, or I've told you about friendships that haven't lasted. So I think Melissa Barrera, for everything that's happened to her, needs to take the better road, the high road. That whole comment I just mentioned earlier about the changing of your heart, don't change your heart just because people have mistreated you. I believe that if that's the route she takes and that's the character she takes, it's gonna ruin her legacy for Scream. Because, first of all, we'll never be able to look at her in the same light again as Sam Carpenter. Yeah. And let's just say in the future, down the line, let's say there is a Scream 11 and the leader of Spyglass is no longer there and the new guy wants to bring her back. She will never be able to come back. Yeah. Never, because people will never see her in the same light. I mean, Ghostface was ruined thanks to the first Scary Movie for a lot of people, So I don't think that Melissa Barrera, I mean, if she wants to be in Scary Movie, great. But please don't be a caricature of Sam Carpenter. And I hope that's not true.
So, here's the thing. Like, I think that Melissa, I think that she should have all the agency to make whatever decisions she wants to for herself. But I'm going to be approaching this as a Scream person because that's who I am. Does Melissa Barrera owe the Scream fandom anything? No. But I think if she chooses to be in Scary Movie and make fun of Sam, to make fun of Scream overall, and to have a fuck you moment to Scream and the fans, I guess Scream wouldn't owe anything back to her in the future if she wants to come back. And I think the problem is on the outset, I think this will get Melissa a lot of attention. I think that it will get the Wayans brothers a lot of attention for casting her. It's going to be seen as this really cool thing, for Melissa Barrera to be switching franchises. It's going to be a snazzy headline for people. But after that, what happens then? Okay, so then she's in Scary Movie. Would she be doing this to get better roles? Was she going to spawn more opportunities in her career from being in Scary Movie? I would think probably no. But, even then, going past that. So let's just say, taking her career and her career choices out of it. Scream 5 and 6 are the most profitable movies that she's been a part of. In the Heights was a flop. Ear Monster, Abigail, non-factors here. She's known for Scream and Scream 5, Scream 6. And I think if she goes on to spoof her performance, her acting, Sam as a character, the Billy Loomis's daughter, how ridiculous is that? And just Scream overall, even apart from anything political, I think that, to me, if she's doing that to get revenge on Scream or to get revenge on Spyglass, I think that she's going to be sinking her own accomplishments down with the ship.
Yeah, I believe that that's exactly true myself. And, Ryan and I had a brief discussion about this yesterday, and I was just shaking my head. I was like, please don't do that. I understand that you're angry and you have every right to be angry with the person that fired you. But what about the people that you worked with? What about all those good times that you had? You saw the little skits that she did with Courtney Cox on Instagram and TikTok and everything. And, she'd built a bond with everyone, and it's fantastic. And I just think that Scary Movie, you look at any of the Scary Movie films, which actor from Scary Movie has then gone on to do anything of substance? Realistically. I mean, I love, Anna and is it Regina? So many people, I love these actors, but they're good for Scary Movie. But outside of that, what have they really done? And I think Melissa Barrera has the acting chops. I mean, I know that Abigail and Your Monster haven't done well, but I liked her performance in both of them. I mean, I remember before Scream came out, you liked her in Your Heights. I wasn't so keen. So she has the ability to do well. And like you said, you've hit the nail on the head. Is what I was going to say was outside of those films, she only has box office success in the Scream franchise for now. Scary Movie might be popular, it might make money, but I just feel like it will really sink her career, and I don't think that's going to be good for her.
Well, and so here's the other thing too, is like her acting in Scream 5 and like her legacy within the Scream franchise, like it's already kind of murky to begin with. A lot of people think that she's not a good actor in Scream 5. A lot of people like her in Scream 6, but like, so there's already divisiveness. Things are already shaky. So my opinion is, why would you then go to make fun of yourself? I mean, is she going to make fun of herself? Is she going to make fun of her own her own performance? The help me, someone tried killing me in the break room. Is she going to make fun of Sam in the robe? Is she going to, make fun of the fact that how ridiculous is it that Billy Loomis had a kid, after all this time? Is she going to do that? I don't know. But, here's the bigger thing, and Amar kind of hit on it. I feel as though if Melissa does Scary Movie, it would disqualify Sam from ever being in Scream again. I think that, that is a moment that you can't come back from. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she does Scary Movie and then she comes back as Sam, but I don't think that the continuity and the believability would work. I don't think that we can have both exist in the same universe. How are we supposed to take her acting in Scream 5 and 6, which is in earnest, and she's doing it in a serious way. She does Scary Movie, then to come back as Sam and be serious and earnest again. It doesn't add up. It would be dishonest. And how can we believe that? And how can, not only believe it, but also how can we take it seriously? How can we take her as an artist seriously if she completely ridicules her performance, her character, and undermines it by doing a spoof in a big thing, again, to get social media clicks of like, oh yes, queen, you go girl, like, because that's what I think, like, that's the instant gratification that will happen whenever she's announced. But at the same time, after that, what happens? Even so, is she a good comedic actress? Does she have the cleverness to spoof herself properly where it's intelligent? I don't know,
No, and I guess we'll only know when it does come out. I wish I could get on the phone, I don't have a number, and have a little conversation with her and say to her, look, don't do this. Something else will come along. This is a bad move. But she's an adult, if she wants to make that move, then that's on her. But I think it's in bad taste, personally.
And maybe she already knows that there is no future for her. Maybe like it's already been clear to her and her team that there's no possibility she can ever come back to Scream. And maybe that's why she's doing it. Maybe she's using it as a way to heal herself and kind of like psychologically for her own personal journey to kill Sam in her mind and rise above it and move on from this and heal. But
even so, let's just say that there is it looks like she'll never come back. I said that earlier, that Sam and Tara will probably never come back. But there's always hope that you leave the door open at least. Why mock your own performance? It makes no sense. I mean, we don't even know. I mean, you said that this is probably exactly what it is going to be. I'm hopeful that it isn't because I have belief that it won't be, but I'm being very, very optimistic here. It just doesn't make sense. If I was in a film and people were already saying, well, you weren't great in that film, and then that franchise goes and fires me, I wouldn't, to get revenge, this is just me, I wouldn't go and then play a mockery of my original character. Not a chance.
For me, like, I think just like how I've been talking about just it being a disqualification and not being believable. I'm not even talking about me. Like, for me, if Melissa is cast in Scary Movie 6, I will feel as a deep betrayal to Scream and her time as Sam. And me personally, I would be even less inclined to be, on the Sam train, It would just be, in my opinion, the biggest consequence of this, not only is the girl boss snapping, finger snaps, yeah, you go girl, yes queen, cunty slay, whatever, whatever. I hate Judd. I hate it so much. She'll get that, whatever, good for her. She'll get that gratification. But for me, what it's going to be is this is just going to, I don't know what world you can look at it and see if Melissa Barrera does Scary Movie 6, that to me is just continuing the divide. I think it's her, going even further and further and further to keep this thing alive. And the only thing that's going to happen from this is more harassment, more death threats, more bullshit, more, blah, blah, blah. It's already been 2 years. It's going to continue on and on. So
you know what? Look at the positive. At least you'll have a lot more topics to talk about, because the thing is, Scream 7 is going ahead. Scary Movie 6 is going ahead. And, there's nothing we can do but give our opinion. And that is that, I'll repeat myself, but I just think it's a poor move on Melissa Barrera's part to go into a franchise that is then going to give you a character that's going to mock your original character that made you famous in the first place. So, don't do it, Melissa. Take the high road. We love you for Scream. I love you for Scream. So just don't. She's not going to listen to this, but, I don't think she should do it, basically.
And you know what? Like, I'll say, Melissa, I love you for bringing me Sam in Scream 5. I love Sam in Scream 5, and I liked her for most of 6 until the robe. And you know what? Like, if she does Scary Movie again, do what's best for you. It may be fun. It may be shady. She may get the revenge that she's looking for, but I just don't think it's going to be a magic cure-all. And again, like, let's just say, you know, anything can happen. Okay, I'll be the devil's advocate. What happens if 7 pulls a Scream 4? What happens if it does actually flop? What happens if people are so over nostalgia they just want they want new stuff? Or Cat in the Hat does obliterate Scream 7. You know, what then? And then they want, you know, they want to switch course again in a couple of years. You know, I feel like if Melissa does Scary Movie 6, that takes her off the table. This is like a make or break moment. And I just, you know, I think that if Melissa signs up for Scary Movie 6, it will be a bigger death to Sam than any death scene that Ghostface could ever give to her as a character.
Yeah. And I quoted today as well. I said, for me, the only 2 people that were untouchable, and this is trying to say a lot about Sam Carpenter as a character, are Sidney Prescott and Sam, in my opinion, because they were both very feisty final girls. And it's just unfortunate that we will never get to see the closure of her chapter. But you know what? It happened, and she is going to make whatever decision she wants to make. But I just don't think that it's going to be the right one.
And one last thing is, like, Scary Movie, from what I remember, it spoofed and made fun of and poked fun at media products, but I never thought that the Wayans brothers made it excessively political. And my fear is, like, you know, too, not only will it make fun, I mean, it can make fun of Sam, and it can make fun of Melissa's acting in Scream 5. It can make fun of Billy Loomis. It can make fun of, you know, the bodega. You know, it can make whatever. That stuff's fair game. That's part of having a sense of humor. But I don't know. I just feel like it would be weird for it to become political to talk about her firing, to even go there about Palestine. For instance, like, look at Naked Gun. The new Naked Gun movie with Liam Neeson that just came out. They actually did address the OJ thing, because OJ Simpson was part of the original movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they addressed him in a very subtle wink, you know, where he shows up on screen and there's a character who kind of looks at the audience directly in the face and goes, nah, you know, and that is cute and clever. And I just feel like, you know, anything more than that would address her firing would be in poor taste and unbecoming. And, like, you know, it would just be weird, because I don't believe that the mainstream audience knows who Melissa Barrera is, knows that she was let go from Scream, you know, or knows about the divisiveness. So why address it?
I hope not. I hope it doesn't go political. I think out of respect for what's going on in Palestine, I don't think they should go down that route. And if they do, it would go against everything that she stands for also. So... Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exploitative, right? It would be exploitative, you know?
Of course. And I just think that, I mean, like I said, again, I'm hopeful that it isn't going to be that, but, you know, that's just me being overly optimistic.
Yeah. And again, like, we're not trying to dog on Melissa. We're not trying to dog on her decisions. We're just talking about the possibility of if this happens and what is step 2. Sure, she'll get the cunty slay queen, you know, messages. Oh yeah, you show Spyglass. Okay, sure. What happens step 2, step 3, step 4, you know? And yeah. I don't think that it is a well thought through decision, unless if she knows for sure she's never playing Sam again. I don't know.
But look at the time in our life that we are in, and the generation and the situation, the fact that you have to tell your listeners that we're not trying to dog on Sam. No. Just let's just have our opinion. If people want to take anything from this, that's their problem. We've said what we wanted to say. I've always given my stance on both Alison Brie and Melissa Barrera. Some people are going to love me for it. Some people don't give a shit. That's what people think anymore.
And again, like, I want to tie everything in one big bow here as we end up. You know, so in terms of the divisiveness, again, I think Alison Brie, she showed how stupid all of this is, how stupid the discourse is, how much in bad faith the racism accusations are, you know. But in terms of divisiveness, I don't see Alison Brie as being divisive. I see her as just sharing her opinion. How is sharing your opinion about whether a character live or die, how is that more divisive than Melissa possibly joining Scary Movie 6, than Melissa comparing Scream to Woody Allen, you know, and other pedophiles in December? How is it more divisive than Jenna Ortega basically lying about leaving Scream 7 because of Melissa's firing, when Christopher Landon has confirmed, and others have confirmed, that she wasn't going to be a part of it at all? Just to, you know, that to me is more divisive and feeding more of the toxicity and more of the divides than Alison Brie saying, hey, you know, I didn't like that all these characters didn't die, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know what, Ryan? We're going to please some. We can't please others. It is what it is.
Amar, where can they find you online?
You can find me online on Twitter, or X as you call it now, at Amar Karim. And on Instagram, it's Amar Ali Karim.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next segment of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. This is an unofficial, official epilogue, and I'm sitting here with my friend Anthony Dapuzzo. Hey, Anthony.
Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
I'm doing wonderful now that I'm sitting here talking to you. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk about all the news.
What are your thoughts on Alison Brie's comments?
I love her, and I I love it. No, I think, first of all, she was amazing in Together. If you guys haven't seen it, go see it. One of my favorite movies of the year. But I don't like this new fad with social media that if someone has a different opinion than you, then you have to, like, hate them or find out something bad and just, or, like, try to, like, push a bad narrative about them when it's like, yo, we all have different opinions. That's why film is awesome, because we can all think different things. But to what she specifically said, I mean, we've been saying this since Scream 6 came out, that there was no stakes. And I know people will say, you know, well, the trio didn't die. Well, first of all, one of them's dead now. And the way it played out, like, Scream killed off the biggest movie star in the opening of the OG. Randy died in Scream 2. Tatum died in Scream 1. Like, Cotton died in the opening of Scream 3. Like, we have had stakes throughout the entire franchise. Scream 6, though, I mean, Dewey was stabbed in 1 and 2, but it was way more realistic, and that was the Dewey thing. I feel like in 6, she has a point. I mean, we talked about it. Mindy could have had an iconic death scene. She got stabbed twice. Chad got stabbed 40 times, and they just ripped off the Dewey thing. Like, it's fine that he survived, but they ripped it off. Gail, Kirby, Tara got stabbed running around. Mindy's running. Like, everyone had a fake death, which that to me is why I get bothered by Scream 6 and the no stakes. So that to me speaks to what Alison Brie is saying, because she's like, people gotta go. We're in a slasher movie.
Well, and let's just talk about Alison Brie for a second, because so she was in Scream 4, and let's just recount her death scene in Scream 4. Like, I have not historically been kind to that scene. I mean, I love her performance, and I've been very praiseworthy of her work in Scream 4. I don't love the scene just because it was reshot. You can tell it's choppy. It doesn't feel super original. But, you know, I've always loved the way she dies when she's rushing to the door and the killer runs up and stabs her in the gut. Like, that moment where it's like there's like a pause, like the killer's leaning up against her. It's almost like in a sensual way. And the knife is just sitting in her gut. Like, that was one stab, but it feels so intense. And I think, like, compare that stab to Chad, or, you know, in his big moment with 2 ghost faces, or Tara, you know, getting stabbed in the back, getting stabbed in the gut when she kills Ethan. Like, you know,
everyone's getting stabbed.
I think Tara gets stabbed harder in the gut than Alison Brie did in Scream 4 when she got stabbed in the parking garage. And, like, you know, Sydney got stabbed twice in Scream 4, and that almost led her to her death. Like, she was in the ICU, like, you know, unconscious, assumed dead, you know, and I think that's what Alison Brie's talking about. And I honestly think that, like, Scream 4 even does violence a little bit more extreme than even the first 3 movies in a way. So for that to be the baseline, I think she has a point. She's not just being a hater.
I just feel like I never got hate from her comment. She was just giving an opinion about characters, fictional characters, not actors, not whatever crazy stuff these people put in their heads. She's like, yeah, some of the core 4 should be dead by now. Like, hell yeah, we've been saying that. And Scream 6 is evidence that it was just a safe, no consequence movie. And, you know, Chad got stabbed 80 times in 5 and 6. So, like, the Dewey comparison is not accurate. Dewey got stabbed once in the back and stabbed twice. And I still felt the emotional impact because he was exit stage in Scream 2 until the end. I feel like in Scream 6, you get Tara running around instantly getting stabbed, you know, Mindy's running around at the end. So it's not, it was more consequential. Dewey was on a stretcher at the end, you know, and they just ripped it off in 6. So I just feel like, to her credit, and she can also have an opinion that, you know, leave the OG trio alone. She can have her opinion that she didn't think Dewey should have died. It's just an opinion. So the people that are giving her hate because they disagree with her, but if it was flipped and she said, you know, so happy everyone survived, she would have been celebrated. They're hurting a cause and a very important thing by just making everything about it. So it's not good.
Well, so Anthony, the second half of this episode is about this very spicy news, or alleged news. It's not confirmed by the official sources, but this has been floating around for a long time, and I always took it as a joke until recently, until I've learned from people I deem as credible, you know, telling me off the record that this is the case. And but like enough people are talking about it where I feel like it's worth discussing at least the possibility of this, because, you know, even if it doesn't happen, it's still worth having the discussion because it's interesting. Like, just for perspective's sake, listener, I love Anthony so much. I love recording with him, and I love sharing my show with him, and it's really nice. I think he's a great, wonderful person. However, he messaged me the other day, and he's like, Ryan, where do you see a source that confirms this? And
can't help it.
I was like, bitch. I thought he was mad at me, but like, no. So I made this big post over the last weekend, and I went out of my way to be thoughtful in this post, to be concise, to be deep, to be multi-dimensional, to be fair, and to not be mean to her. However, that wasn't enough. And because partly what I do sometimes, and I'm sure, Anthony, you've caught on to this, is like he and I will record an episode like Monday or Tuesday, then it will be a whole week till it comes out. But that weekend, I put up a post being like, hey, what do you think about this topic? And get people's juices flowing. So that when they listen to the show, it's like, ooh, the thoughts are already there. So I did that with the Melissa thing. And oh my God, it was intense. You know, my post got a lot of engagement. It's been seen by over 100,000 people across the social media platforms in terms of people engaging with it. And it was a little bit of everything, right? There was a lot of people who agreed with me, a lot of people who didn't, who were hating on me, who made it personal, whatever. Doesn't matter because like I didn't say anything wrong. But here we are. So I do want to go through the reactions to that post and like what surprised me in that. But I want to hear from you first, Anthony. What are your thoughts on the potential if Melissa Barrera were to join Scary Movie 6?
Okay, yeah, so if this is true, again, I'll believe it when I see it. Not saying I'm for or against it, but I'll believe it when I see it. I think it's fascinating. Well, I'll just want to break it down. So first of all, we're going to go into the reactions, but yeah, people saying, you know, she doesn't want to go back to Scream anyway, so let her do her thing. But for that right there, if she doesn't want to go back to Scream and she's over that part of her career, why are you going to go back and spoof Scream and go back to the well? So that to me is initially like, that's where your argument, she is going back to Scream and using Scream for her professional advantage right there. But let's go to the next part. Because obviously we see these days legacy sequels. In my head, I'm always like, unless she 100% knows, like her in the studio, her whatever, she hasn't something written down that she's like, I'm never doing Scream again, or we have an agreement that happened and she's never allowed back in Scream. I don't know what actually happened, but in the back of my head, I'm like, there's always potential for a return for Sam and Tara. And especially, you know, I'm not saying like obviously Jenna Ortega's thriving, but like when this part of her career is over and she needs a franchise to boost her up again, ding, 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 Scream is right there. Mm-hmm. And Melissa, I would assume, would want to be part of that too, if that was in the cards. So if she's thinking about this just to get in another like a comedy and a big, you know, franchise movie, I get that. But if she's not thinking that potentially one day you could return to Scream, that's the part where like I'm like, yo, girl, like I'm like, what are you doing? Like I want to see you in Scream again. So if she's a small supporting or cameo role in the movie, I think she still has potential to be in a Scream movie. But we're talking about Scary Movie and the Wayans brothers are back. They're going to hardcore be meta and spoof her Scream situation. So I feel like if she does that and she's a main player, I don't really see an opportunity for her to go back to Scream.
Some people, and this was so unsurprising, right? The Melissa Barrera folk, well, we'll just call them that. Right. Well, why couldn't she? It's called acting. She can do both. And I'm like, do you really want me to answer that? Because I can't answer that without being mean, because this woman, her performance was so mixed by down-to-earth regular Scream fans that thought that she was a bad actress in Scream 5. The leading character, long-time people who love this franchise had problems with Scream 5 because of her acting, because of her performances, because of her choices as an artist. She is already on shaky ground.
I know she's not part of the franchise as of now, but I think she's really just solidifying her end, exclamation point, if she does this. And that's someone, and I'm like, so you can't hit on me. I'm saying I'm open to the idea of her returning. So that's why I'm saying like this is an interesting decision for her if this is true. So, yeah.
And let's talk about this, because this was the most surprising thing to me, is like, I agree with you 100% or 1000% that she is going to return if she doesn't do Scary Movie 6 and she was given the opportunity to return for Scream 8, Scream 9 with Nev right now, or 10 years down the road with Scream 10, her ass would be back, okay? Give me a break, okay?
They both would be.
And given the opportunity, like, to return to a franchise where there's money and to earn a nice salary, and you don't have to really work hard to get the job. It's just there for you, a built-in fan base. It will probably make money and be successful. Why wouldn't you? We see people do this all the time. You know, even like, look at Nev Campbell, you know? I think that like that, and we'll talk about her in a second, but like, you know, the way that she didn't get Scream 6, she could have been like, I'm done with Scream, I'm walking away. And she didn't. She did not burn bridges. And in my opinion, Melissa doing Scary Movie 6 would burn a bridge and make it, again, like I use that word disqualify. That's how I see it. I don't see it as like it's just like, for regular Scream fans, this will be seen as a betrayal. Some people will go with it. Some people will find it funny, but The biggest thing that surprised me about this, though, was the reaction from some people. This was Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere, from regular folk. They said that Melissa was fired by Spyglass. Why would she ever return to work with them? Why would she ever want to come back? Why are you assuming she wants to come back? And that surprised me. And I don't know if I'm being cynical or if I'm being optimistic because I want Sam to return one day. Because I do, I would be open to that. But what are your thoughts on that, Anthony? Because that shocked me. So many people said that over and over. But Spyglass fired her. Why would she want to work with them again?
No, I agree with you 100%. I also feel like the word firing, like her contract was not renewed. She was planned to be in 7, but her contract was not renewed. They didn't fire her 2 weeks into filming, so I always go back to that. But I just think that things change over time, and if you have meetings down the road, like, things change. Life is life. I'm not, like, she can have her opinion, Spyglass can have theirs. You can be a professional and come into agreement to say, hey, so we really need Sam for this story arc. Let's really talk to Melissa. Let's, whatever, come to an agreement. And if she doesn't want to, then but like, things can happen, especially in the film industry. And I do think that if the opportunity arises again for Melissa Barrera to return to Scream, like you said, whether it's to end this trilogy with Nev and Courtney or to start another one in 10 years, I think she would take that meeting and want to be part of it. And we'll get to Nev, but I just think it's fascinating. I'm not judging Melissa, but I think it's fascinating how, like you said, Nev dealt with her exit from 6 by taking a step back, and she was like, I know my worth.
Yeah.
And they came to her. And again, people are going to say, but only because Melissa's not in it. No, there was always a plan to have them both in it, blah, 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 blah. But she knew her worth and she respected herself. Whereas Melissa, this is awesome for her if she is in a scary movie, but she's just jumping into something to, get back at it rather than just taking a step back and say, oh, I'm worth this. I think this. She's just kind of like, let me capitalize on this now. And for instant gratification rather than taking a step back and waiting for her time again with this franchise. Because to me, technically, she's still dealing with this franchise in Scary Movie 6 because her whole role is going to be commenting on it. So, you know what I mean?
She's still making a movie with Ghostface. Like, that is the ironic thing about it, is she's still making a movie with Ghostface, and she's playing a version of Sam with a sister who's shaped, in size like Jenna Ortega. Like, it's so Scream coded. Like, they're, it's so close to the chest. And like, there is a potential that maybe she doesn't spoof Sam. Maybe she plays another character. But I think that the reason why the Wayans brothers would even consider her is because of taking advantage of this opportunity just for the optics. Like, I could see the reason why the Wayans brothers would want her is just purely is for the social media buzz that this will get, just that, who cares if Melissa can actually do satire and parody, just the mere image of her being in the movie will get the movie a lot of attention, at least from the activist base on social media. But I don't know, like, it just, I guess, like, there's a good faith and a bad faith argument about this Melissa. How do you know she even wants to come back? The good faith is like, okay, think about this in the real world. If you get fired from a corporation, let's just say you work for Amazon, a corporate job for Amazon, and Amazon unfairly fires you and really hurts your feelings, would you ever work with them again? Some people may feel like, I would never work for Amazon again. Maybe that's how Melissa would take it, okay? Like, that's a realistic thing. But I also think that, like, the people who say this, oh, Melissa would never do this, blah, 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 blah. Like, I think that it's mostly coming from a bad faith place where it's just like, they know they're powerless and they know that Melissa kind of lost this opportunity. And I feel like that's just the way that they're coping with it. I just feel in my heart of hearts, like, actors don't turn down opportunities when there's a built-in IP, like, just for the sake of it.
That you were once a star of, too. I mean,
yeah, look at Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Never say never. Yeah, come on, never say never is a saying for a reason. So I think that by her, and again, they're using her for the 5 and 6 were the popular Legacy sequels, so they're obviously commenting on that. On top of, they're going to do a couple wink, wink, ha-has. You were, this. They're going to do those jokes. So it's just, if you say they're not using Scream and her, they're using Scream to capitalize on it. Which again, the Wayans brothers are commenting on that, but they're using her Scream fame. They're not using Melissa Barrera.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
So absolutely, exactly. They're using the built-in Scream fan base and like the culture around Scream to make this happen. But like, just like for perspective's sake, look at Jamie Lee Curtis. Okay, she doing Halloween 1 and 2, which is what Melissa Barrera has, right? Melissa Barrera has done 2 films. Jamie Lee Curtis made the active decision: I never want to do another horror movie ever again. Okay. That was in 1981. Boop, ba-doop, ba-doop, ba-doop. 20 years later, she has this great idea. Oh, I'm going to do the 20th anniversary and then I'm going to leave the film industry. And then she does that. Ba-doop, ba-doop, ba-doop. She's in the sequel. Okay. And then, Laurie's dead. Then she thinks that she's done with Halloween forever. Here we are in 2016. She gets an email from Jason Blum. She considers it. She does it. She makes 3 more movies. And to this day, she said that she said, never say never. She said, I think I'm done playing Laurie, but never say never. Look at Neve Campbell. She didn't really want to do Scream
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like she literally says that. And now she's again, never say never.
Yeah. She didn't want to do Scream 3. She didn't want to do Scream 4. She didn't really want to do Scream 5. And now here we are. She's on Scream 7 and Scream 6 movies.
And she wants to do it. She's passionate about it. So it's just like, again, never say never. So I just feel like this is just, she's not thinking long term. And again, she might not, no one knows for sure either. Like people are saying, what she doesn't want to be a part of. You don't know that. You don't know her. But so you don't know, but never say never. So I do think down the road, when there is another, like we need to bring slashers back and they're like, oh, great, let's go back to the character of Sam. That opening is always there. She didn't leave, she might have left on bad terms, but there's always possibilities to bring people. We had stories about actors and studios all the time coming to agreements and coming back. So it's just, to me, it's just like, that's why I'm concerned, because again, I'm happy for her, but it's just like, ooh, not only are you hurting your legacy in Scream by doing this too? That's a question I have. Like, that's a really important question that I have, that for me too, I'm like, oh, is it hurting my Scream legacy to have an actual actress from Scream playing pretty much the same character in Scary Movie? That's the part that's getting me. But also, are you hurting your own chances from coming back to your most iconic role?
And not only just the Scream legacy, because I think that she will, I think her presence in Scary Movie and whatever she does in it, it's going to give Scream some bad PR, but Scream will be fine. More so for me is like what it's doing as we look at Melissa Barrera's filmography. Let's just say she really does spoof Sam. She spoofs the Billy Loomis. Can't you imagine like Billy, what's the guy from the original Scary Movie, him coming back to her in a vision? That's going to happen, okay? And it's going to be completely ridiculous. They'll do something like that. She's going to spoof her own lines, probably the help me, he's in the break room. I wouldn't even put it past them to put her in the robe and have like the goofy Scary Movie mask with the tongue out, and she pulls that off like she does at the end of Scream 6. There's so much to do with having Melissa Barrera spoofing herself in Scream 5 and 6, and they're going to do that. And so it's just crazy to me. And like, so here's one thing that I think is going to happen. I really think I think that they are going to talk about the firing. I don't know if they'll go as far to mention Palestine, but I think that they're going to have, it's going to be some gimmick like, and they're going to be acting in the scene and Melissa will be there, and then there's going to be a director yell, cut. They're going to pretend like the director of Scary Movie 6 comes into the frame. Hey, Melissa, you got to go. You're fired. And then bam, Anna Faris will be back. Bring back the original white lead. They're going to make a big joke about that. It's just so something that they would do. And for me, I think it's in poor taste. I think it's unfair. I think it's shooting below the belt. But, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
And it's also like you said before, it's for like social media clicks, and it's so like that rewatching Scary Movie, if they go that way, rewatching Scary Movie, what it's on 6 and 10 years from now, saying like, what the heck was that joke? Like, what's that joke about? It's like not going to age well. And it's just, they're doing everything for instant gratification. And I just want to say, thank God Scream 7 is coming out before Scary Movie 6. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Get ahead of that.
No, I agree. And like, I think that like, yeah, I guess I guarantee there's going to be a mean-spirited aspect to Scary Movie 6 as it pertains to this situation. And I use the word petty in my post, which I stand by because I think it would be petty. I think it's intended to be petty. I think there is intention behind her wanting to do
right. She's throwing shade.
Role. Yeah, and if she wants to, sure. But then here's my thing. Don't expect to come back to Scream in 5-10 years if you're going to do that. Well, so that leads me to my next point. So some people commented on my post and said, well, what about Linda Blair? She did Repossessed, and then she came back as her iconic character. I think this is such a shit argument because
it is.
First of all, Linda Blair came back as a 10-second cameo at the end of Exorcist Believer. She literally is in the just one scene. It's literally she walks into a room, holds Ellen Burstyn's hand, and that's it. She maybe has 2 lines of dialogue. So is that the future you want for Melissa Barrera after she spoofs herself? Like, I'm asking genuinely. 1, but 2, I don't believe that Repossessed is equal to Scary Movie in terms of like Scary Movie was designed as a specific Scream targeted offense, right? And Linda Blair, I haven't seen Repossessed, but for me, going from being the leading actress of 2 movies, having huge beef with the studio, and then going to spoof yourself in those movies, that to me is different than Linda Blair starring in Repossessed.
It's so different. First of all, The Exorcist was 73 and The Exorcist 2, whatever, was late 70s. Repossessed didn't come out until 1990. Scream 5 and 6, 22, 23, and Scary Movie 6 is 2026. Boom. So, like, Linda Blair knew after Exorcist 2 that her time was done, and she wanted to be done. She didn't even want to be in Believer. She only came back for a 5-second cameo because they begged her pretty much. So,
Never
and she
say
was
never.
like a consultant. Right, exactly. She was a consultant. She was like, yeah, I'll pop up for 5 seconds and, hold my mom's hand. Again, that's my favorite part of the movie, by the way. But anyway, the time lapse, she was like, okay, it's 1990. It's okay. It's I can poke fun at myself now in this. Sam and Melissa were just in Scream 5 and 6, and they're not doing it to like call back to her iconic role. They're doing it because of a controversy. And again, do you want Melissa Barrera to only come back in a 5-second cameo if she ever comes back, or do you want her to be an active part of a character that everyone is obsessed with, apparently? You know what I mean? So it's just two different things.
Well, and for the record, Linda Blair it's an Oscar-nominated performance that she did as a child. The context is more revenge-filled, if that makes sense. So one other thing that I got as a comment, as a response, as a ooh, gotcha moment, people were saying, oh, well, Ryan, how would you feel? Would you be saying the same thing if it was Neve Campbell doing this? What if this were Neve Campbell wanting to do a scary movie? You wouldn't be saying the same thing. It's just because you hate Melissa. Oh my God, it is so exhausting, right? To have this constant, like, do you hate Melissa Barrera? Like, oh my God. But, if Neve Campbell, let's just say, she wasn't paid what she was worth in Scream 6. She's not in it. If she would have then gone to the Wayans brothers and said, hey, let's make Scary Movie 6 and I'll play the main character and we can talk about my pay dispute. If she had done that in the summer of 2022, I would feel exactly the same way. And even more so because Sydney is a bigger part of this franchise and than Sam is, frankly. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
She's the biggest part of the franchise, my friend. But 100%, I would have the same critique on Neve if she went to do this quick, jab at the studio. But that's not what Neve did. She put a post out thanking all the Scream fans for everything and saying how she just felt not valid, but she still thanked us, and she took a step back and she waited for her time to come and get respected and get a respectful offer. So it just didn't happen. She's not that kind of, she didn't go running to the next thing. You know what I mean? She was just like, let me do my thing. I'm busy with other things. And she waited for her time. She knows her worth. She knew that she was going to eventually come back. Come on, she's not stupid. She knew she was going to get an offer in the future, come back to Scream. And I think internally she knew that she loves Sydney as much as us. She knew that would hurt her legacy as Sydney Prescott if she did something like that. And that's not how she loves Sydney Prescott. She is Sydney Prescott. So that would never happen. But I would have had the same exact critiques as I'm saying right now. So it's not a Melissa thing. It's a situation and it's a Scream thing.
For the permanent record, to answer everybody who asks me, if this were Neve Campbell, yes, I would feel exactly the same way. I would feel even more hurt by Neve because, one, I would expect more from her than I would Melissa. And two, I would expect that Neve would respect the fact that she's been in so many movies. She would have been in 5 movies by this point, right? If she would have then gone around and done Scary Movie after that, yes, my feelings would have been hurt. Actually, I would be personally devastated. With Melissa, it's more so kind of annoyance and just disappointment.
Right.
With Neve, I would have been really, really devastated. So yes, in fact, it would have been worse with Neve Campbell if she would have done Scary Movie 6. So
I feel the same way, the same exact way. Because that character means everything to me, so I would have been hurt. Now I'm just like, oh, it's kind of annoying. What are you doing?
Or even Jamie Lee Curtis. Let's just say, after
Right.
Halloween Resurrection, it's very infamous about what happened with Jamie Lee Curtis and the Weinsteins and Mustafa Akkad and like the misunderstanding about what project she was signing up for with H2O. Let's just say she would have been so pissed off around the time of Resurrection that she said, hey, Wayans brothers, let's put me in the next Scary Movie because I want to really stick it to Weinstein and stick it to Mustafa Akkad. Like, they lied to me about this. And she didn't, because it's weird, that's the best way to say it. It's just fucking weird.
No, I agree. So, it's not a Melissa thing. It's if David Arquette did it, if Courtney Cox did it, if Jennifer Love Hewitt did it. It's not, specific to Melissa. It's these characters that I love that I don't want to see their, reputation as part of the franchise tarnished. So that's it.
Anthony, please tell everybody where they can find you and your podcast.
Yeah, you guys can find me on X. My name, Anthony Dapuzzo, and I'm on a podcast with my buddy Nolan, Never Split Up Pod. Just follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube. Thanks for having me to talk about these hot topics.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!